Thanks for tuning in to the Financial Aid Info Session. My name is Bryce and I work here in the admissions office at CBU. We put this presentation together to help you walk through the entire financial aid process at CBU. So our hope and my hope is that at the end of this presentation, you feel equipped to walk through that journey yourself. But if you get stuck at any point along the way, please contact your admissions counselor. They're there as a resource for you to help in case you do have any questions. So with that being said, let's get started.
So we have 4 primary goals for this presentation, so that by the end of this session, we really hope that you will come away with 4 main things. The first thing is to know how to confirm your enrollment by the payment due date. That's some CBU technical language, but basically it means we want you to know how to complete your financial arrangements so that by the time the payment due date comes, when everything needs to be covered every semester, you're ready to go so you can start classes that semester. The second thing is to clearly understand your financial aid award. You're going to be receiving a financial aid award from the CBU Financial Aid Office, and that's going to include all kinds of things. And when you get that, we want you to clearly understand what all's on it and what all's available to you from CBU as well as from government and other sources. The third thing is we want you to learn how to look for scholarships and prepare your own finances now. I'm going to do a little pep talk to get you motivated to look for outside scholarships, but we're also going to talk to you about how you can prepare your own finances now so you can start to work towards being ready for when classes begin every semester. The fourth thing is to know the steps to take to cover your balance. This is one of the most helpful things, I think, because a lot of times people get stuck at this spot. They have a remaining balance, they're not sure what to do, and so they get a little bit stuck. So we've developed a process for you to work to help you move through and know how you can cover your balance. So those are the 4 things we hope you take away from this presentation. We do have some important terms to go over. Maybe you're the first student in your family to go to college. Maybe you're just new to the financial aid realm, or maybe you're a parent that's watching right now and you know this is your first kid that's going to college. Whatever it is, we want to make sure you know some important terms that we're going to be referring to constantly through this presentation and that you hear just all the time when it comes to financial aid. So the first 2 are grants and scholarships. That's financial aid that you do not have to pay back. That's great aid. You always want to accept those because it's financial aid that you don't have to pay back. Loans is another kind of aid, or another common term you'll hear, and that's borrowed money, and then you have to repay that with interest. So just know that about loans, you do have to pay loans back. Typically they'll have interest on it of some kind, so you have to repay it at some point. Then there's also the free application for federal student aid. And that's commonly referred to as the FAFSA. We'll refer to it as the FAFSA, but that's the application to receive certain kinds of government aid. And that partly what's generated by the FAFSA is what's called an EFC, or an expected family contribution. And that's a number that measures your financial strength, is what it's called. But that they use that number to determine different kinds of financial aid you could qualify for. There's also the remaining balance. So the remaining balance is you take the cost of CBU and then you subtract your financial aid, and that's how you get the remaining balance. And that could be what left over and what you have to cover once you used your financial aid. So those are some important terms that are really helpful to know. So this is the 2019-2020 annual cost. Before we talk through all the different financial aid options, we want to at least let you know what the cost of CBU is. So here it is for a residential student. It's just under $45,000 for the year. And then for a commuter student, it's just under over $35,000. So for a residential student, the cost that's included there are fees as well as your tuition, and then housing and your meal plan. So housing, that's for both years, and all of our housing we have a standard price across the board for our housing, and then no matter what living area you choose. But then there's also for a meal plan. Our meal plan is the standard meal plan that's included in this cost, which is the minimum that students have to have in order to live on campus. That comes out to about 10 meals per week is roughly what it comes to. So that's what you'd be looking at for a residential student. And then for a commuter student, that's just your standard typical costs, fees and tuition to come to CBU. So what's not included are lab fees and books, and that's going to change semester by semester depending on what classes you're enrolled in and what you're taking. And then certain program fees. So certain academic programs have an additional program fee that's added on just based on what major you have. So that's the total cost for the 2019-2020 year. So you can kind of see what you'd be looking at, whether or not you're a residential student or a commuter student.
So now that I've shown you the total cost, the truth is that most students don't pay that full price. In fact, most students pay significantly less than the amount that you saw there. But still, over the years, we've heard some common concerns about the affordability of CBU. And so we wanted to address those concerns. So to do that, we did a little bit of research.
So a lot of the research that we did was internal research through the financial aid office. So we looked at traditional undergraduate students that were freshmen and incoming in the fall 2017, that year. We looked at this group of students. We also did some additional research through the Department of Education. You can find that actually online for yourself. If you want to look it up too, there's a website called College Scorecard, which is really helpful, has helpful comparative stats for different colleges and universities. So this is the research we did because we really wanted to find out more information about these concerns that we were hearing so we could help it make sense to people. The first concern is this: families like mine aren't able to afford CBU. You just looked at the cost that we had, your family's income, and you just think, I don't know if we're going to be able to make something like that work. So what we did is we looked at that incoming class, fall 17 students, and we broke it down based on family income. So you kind of can see the percentage breakdown of students that fall into each of these family income brackets. So from the $0 to $40,000 range, it's about 30% of the students in that fall 17 class. From $40,000 to about $80,000 was 21% of the class. So you can see it goes on up from there. But one stat that really stood out to me from this data is that 51% of students have a family income that's under $80,000 a year. So I'm not sure what your family situation looks like exactly, but what I can say is that there probably are other students at CBU that look really similar to yours. But another concern is okay, maybe there are families like mine at CBU, but maybe they're taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans in order to make it work. And this is understandable too. There's a lot of news articles out and a lot of news about the student loan debt crisis, and we understand that, and we really try and be mindful and consider that as much as we possibly can. So we want to know what is the income level, or what is the average amount of loans that a student took out that year, those freshmen, what was their average loan like? And so this is what we found out. It was about $9,000 was the average amount of loans a student took out that was an incoming freshman that year. And we're not trying to say that's an insignificant amount at all. What we are trying to do is give you an accurate picture, though, of what it's like for these students to come to CBU, what it could be like for you to come to CBU. And so it's far less than the $100,000 plus in loans that you may think that you have to take in order to come here. But hopefully that gives you a more accurate picture when it comes to that concern. But then another concern may be this, is will I be able to repay that money? So maybe I am going to take out some loans in order to come to CBU. You may have the question, will I actually be able to repay it back when I graduate, and am I going to be able to afford it? The default rate is what we look at there. So the default rate is the percentage of borrowers that fail to pay back their loans. And so that means that it's not just that they were late on a payment or anything like that. It means they actually can't pay them back. This is the default rate. This is the most recent data that we have available. This is from the Department of Education. So 3.9% is CBU's default rate, which is pretty low. And low in this case is a really good thing. You can compare that to a public 4-year national average, which is just over 10%. And then you can see the private 4-year average, as well as some of the California Christian colleges. That's an average there too. And so CBU has a great default rate, which means we equip students to be able to repay that money when they're leaving. So next, what you may be thinking is, okay, technically I'm able to pay off my student loans, but my entire paycheck is going to be going to paying off my student debt. And I understand that. It's difficult sometimes to really wrap your mind around numbers like this. $42,600, your salary after attending CBU, or $27,000, right? That's the median debt of CBU graduates. And these numbers are from College Scorecard. It's an online website run by the government. So that's where this information's from. But it's really difficult to go from numbers like this to your monthly salary, or how much you're going to be paying out on a monthly basis or from paycheck to paycheck. So what I tried to do is break it down for you. So I put together your monthly income. So if your salary is about $42,600, your monthly income will be about $3,400 a month. I just divided that by 12. And then an estimated monthly loan payment is $279. Now this is based off of a 10-year fixed interest rate loan. So the repayment will take place over 10 years. And then it's at a fixed interest rate. And so it's going to be roughly $279. That's going to change based on what the interest rate is at the time. But this is kind of what that looks like. You can see the monthly remaining salary there is about $3,100. And then your estimated student loan payment is $280. So your situation is going to be different from this one. But hopefully what this does is it gives you some idea of if you're taking off a certain amount of loans over the course of 4 years or however many years you are at CBU. This will show you at least a little bit of a picture of what it's like and what it's going to affect you on a monthly basis.
One question at some point you're going to have to answer is this: is a CBU education worth that much of an investment? And I think that it is, and here are 3 reasons why I think it is. The first one is career preparation. CBU has a great career center, which hosts things like job fairs where hundreds of employers will come on campus looking to hire CBU students, as well as they'll do mock interviews, resume workshops, LinkedIn workshops. All of those are designed to help you put your best foot forward with employers. And some of the feedback we've gotten from employers are that CBU grads have high marks for integrity and character, and those are so valuable for them, for our employers in the workplace. Another reason is this: it's that we're student-centered, which means we make decisions that are in the best interest of students. So take academics, for example. You're going to be taught by professors who are experts in their field. But after class, if you have questions and need some follow-up, you can just stop by their office during their office hours or reach out to them, and they'd be more than happy to help. That's the kind of culture that we have at CBU. We really are student-centered. We're looking to help you as a student. And the last thing is this personal transformation. You can experience that if you take advantage of all the resources and opportunities that are available to you when you come to CBU, because you can get more than just a degree. And that's what I experienced when I was a student at CBU. When I graduated, I did not leave the same way as when I started. And I improved so much for the better. And that was because of all the professors who invested in me, as well as the other staff and support that I received while I was a student here.
All right, so now I'll get back to talking about financial aid. So we have two different categories of financial aid that we're going to be discussing right at this point. The first kind of financial aid is financial aid that's based off the FAFSA. And the second kind is financial aid that's not based off the FAFSA. So first we're going to turn to financial aid that's based on the FAFSA. Now the FAFSA, again, stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And the first thing to do is to complete the FAFSA, even if you think that you won't qualify for anything. This is a common thing we hear, especially from new students. Maybe they think their income places them out of where they receive any kind of aid from the government or something. What we always encourage students is that if it's your first time in college, do the FAFSA and see what you could qualify for. Sometimes you may qualify for some aid from CBU, or even some outside scholarships require the FAFSA. So it's a good idea just to see what aid could be available to you. We understand after that if it doesn't make sense, but we do encourage you to do at least your first year. And here are the steps to do to complete the FAFSA. The first thing is you're gonna want to go to FAFSA.gov and create an FSA ID for both your student and parent. So there's a few things. So it is the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, so you don't need to pay anyone to do the FAFSA. There are some services or websites out there. So be sure to know if someone's asking you to pay for it, you don't have to do that. You can do it by yourself. So we encourage you just to complete it. You do that at FAFSA.gov. But you'll need to create an FSA ID. This is kind of like your username, your password, everything like that for completing the FAFSA. And you can see on the step 5 on there too, be sure to write down your FSA ID. You want to keep that because you're going to need it year by year when you complete the FAFSA each time. But both the student and the parent are going to need to keep that FSA ID. There's different ones. So as you're doing it, the parent will eventually have to create an FSA ID as well. So you also need to have some needed information on hand. Having a recent copy of your taxes for the year that you're using to apply for the FAFSA is going to be very helpful because that's just going to ask you information that's located on your taxes. So if you have that on hand, then that'll make completing it much easier, completing the FAFSA. You also want to put CBU on there too. There's a school code 001125. You can also look up California Baptist University, but you'll need to add CBU to your FAFSA so that our financial aid office can take a look at it. So unless CBU is added to it, we won't be able to actually access it and see your information and put together your financial aid award. There's also a FAFSA verification process. So about 1 in 3 students are selected for FAFSA verification. It's just an added step to verify that the information that you submitted on the FAFSA is right and true. If you're selected for verification, one of the best things you can do is link your taxes. When you're completing the FAFSA, there's a way that you can link your taxes using the IRS data retrieval tool, and you can do that. And that'll help you speed through the FAFSA verification process much faster if you are selected for it. So that's a really helpful thing that you can do. So those are the steps you need to take in order to do the FAFSA. Some additional notes related to the FAFSA. The application opens on October 1st each year. There is a Cal Grant deadline. So if you're a California resident, you may be eligible for the Cal Grant, but you need to have completed the FAFSA by March 2nd in order to see if you qualify for that. There's an added step to that too. So if you are a California resident, to see if you qualify for the Cal Grant, you'll also want to make sure that you your school submits a GPA verification form to the California Student Aid Commission. So be sure to check with your school counselor just to make sure that they submitted that by March 2nd. If you need help at any point when you're completing the FAFSA, you can call the Federal Student Aid Center, and here's their number listed. They're more than happy to help if you have questions about completing the FAFSA. And there's also the CBU Financial Aid Office number there too. So sometimes they'll refer you out. If you have questions about completing the FAFSA, they may refer you out to the Federal Student Aid Center. But if you're stuck and you need help, you can always call the Financial Aid Office, and we'd be happy to help get you unstuck there. Now, once you complete that FAFSA, this is the aid that could be available to you. So I'll walk through all the different aid options that you could receive after you do the FAFSA. So here's some grants from the government. There's two different kinds of Cal Grant. That's what you'll see there. There's Cal Grant A, which is for $9,000 for the year, and then Cal Grant B. So year 1 of Cal Grant B, you receive $1,600, and then years 2 through 4, you receive $9,000 plus the additional $1,600. That's in years 2 through 4. Those are two different kinds of Cal Grants. And there's also the Pell Grant. That's a federal grant. So that's for anyone, not just California residents. And it ranges from $600 to $6,000. That's the Pell Grant. And then there's also the FSEOG. That's an additional grant from the federal government for $1,000 if you were to qualify for that. And again, these are need-based. It's based on the results of the FAFSA. But there's also loans from the government. There's Stafford loans. So for incoming freshmen, you automatically qualify for $5,500 in loans. Sophomores, juniors will qualify for a little bit more each year, but incoming freshmen will always qualify for $5,500. These loans are in your name. It's in the student's name, but that's available to you to take based on the FAFSA. And there's also some aid from CBU. There's the CBU grant. It's up to $6,000. A lot of our students receive this grant, and it just kind of varies based on financial need. And there's also the CBU Cal Grant B Assist. So the way that one works is if you qualify for Cal Grant B, then during your first year, it's just a 1-year grant. So during your first year, when it's $1,600, you can also receive the Cal Grant B Assist to make it up to that $9,084 mark. So it matches the same amount as the Cal Grant A. So these are all of the aid options that are available to you, that could be available to you once you finish doing the FAFSA.
So now that we've covered all the financial aid options that are based on the FAFSA, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about financial aid options that are available to you that are not based on the FAFSA. And that's primarily going to be CBU financial aid.
First, we'll look at our freshman merit-based academic scholarships. So these are based on your GPA and then your test score, SAT or ACT. We don't have a preference between the SAT or ACT. We just recommend whatever you do better on, and you can retake those tests multiple times to qualify for a better scholarship. But here's our academic scholarships you can see. And again, it's based on your GPA plus the matching test score. So to qualify for the Director's Scholarship, that's $7,500 for the year. You need at least a 3.0 GPA with a 990 on the SAT or a 19 on the ACT, and you'd qualify for that scholarship. It goes all the way up to the trustees for $13,500 for the year. And that's a 4.0 GPA or higher with a 1,200 on the SAT or a 25 on the ACT. And again, these are automatic. When your admissions counselor is evaluating your application, they'll look at your test scores, they'll look at your GPA and see if you qualify for these. And if you meet the requirements determined by your admissions counselor, then you will receive this scholarship. In order to maintain it at CBU, you do have to earn a certain GPA while you're here at CBU. For the Director's Scholarship, you have to keep a 2.75. Dean's is a 3.0, President's is a 3.2, and then Trustees is a 3.5. We also have transfer-specific scholarships. To be considered a transfer student, you need to have completed 24 or more college semester units. If you haven't completed 24 semester units, that's okay too. We'll just use your high school grades as well as the SAT or ACT in order to make an admissions decision, as well as actually award you your scholarship information. So you could still transfer to CBU. We encourage you to transfer to CBU. But you would just come in based on your high school grades and test scores. But here's our transfer scholarships. We have Transfer Blue for $7,500 and then Transfer Gold for $9,500. And these will look at your total academic record, your complete academic record, and we'll calculate your GPA based on all the transcripts that you provide. If you have at least a 3.0 GPA, you qualify for the Transfer Blue Scholarship. If you have at least a 3.5 GPA, you qualify for the Transfer Gold Scholarship. To maintain the Transfer Blue Scholarship at CBU, you have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. To maintain the Transfer Gold one, you have to maintain a 3.2 GPA while you're here at CBU. And again, these are automatic as well. So if you meet the requirements as determined by your admissions counselor, then you will qualify for this. We do have some other forms of aid that you can qualify for. There's some general CBU scholarships, a multiple sibling scholarship. So all these three, the multiple sibling, Ministers Kin, International Mission Board, you have to be a dependent of someone. So multiple sibling, that's you and your brother or sister are both dependents of the same parent, and you're both in the traditional undergraduate program. And so there's a scholarship for both of you, actually, if that qualifies, if you meet those requirements. And then if your parents work in full-time pastoral ministry or for the International Mission Board, you're dependent of them, then you can qualify for a scholarship there. Then there's different department scholarships too. These require some form of participation or some kind of audition in order to qualify for these. And so you want to work with these departments directly, but if you have any interest in these areas, then you can just contact them and see if you can qualify for one of these scholarships. And there's also athletic scholarships. If you're interested in playing on our NCAA Division I athletic teams, you can reach out to our coaches and go through that process. But all of our teams offer scholarships. And then you have certain major scholarships as well. So all the majors that are listed here do have additional scholarships, and you can just work directly with the departments in order to see what you'd qualify for there. So they have different application processes for all of these, and so just reach out to them to see if you can qualify for a scholarship in any of these different areas. And so you may be wondering, okay, that's a lot of different options, and I see all these things, but what will I qualify for? Maybe thinking, what is it going to look like for me? It may be hard to understand when you see all those different options. And so to kind of give you some sort of idea of what that would look like, we put together the average gift aid amount that was for those Fall 17 students that we looked at earlier. So the average gift aid amount, that means scholarships and grants, not aid that you have to pay back. Is $18,350. That's the total amount for the year. So that's a pretty significant amount when you think about it. And so that helps to give you some sort of idea. And that's the average. That's sort of a general amount that students receive. But hopefully that gives you some picture of what you would qualify for. Now, the financial aid award is where you'll see exactly what kind of aid that you will qualify for. So that really brings it home, so you know exactly, okay, well, how does all these things, all these aid options, how do these apply to me? Your financial aid award is where you'll really see how that applies. So the financial aid award is put together by CBU's Financial Aid Office. It includes all federal, state, and CBU financial aid. And so it's going to include the aid that you qualify for that's from the FAFSA. But in order to receive a financial aid award, you must have completed an application and been accepted to CBU. So you have to have received an admissions decision already and then and been accepted. And then also completed the FAFSA and added CBU to it. So those are really important steps. If you don't add CBU to your FAFSA, even though you've done it, then we can't look at it in order to put together your financial aid award. A common thing too is maybe you go in, you make a change, you add CBU to it. Be sure to sign and submit your FAFSA again so that we can take a look at it. That's a common thing that maybe students forget to do, and so be sure to sign and submit it so we can put together your financial aid award. And then also you'll receive it via email, mail, and inside CBU. So we'll hit you at every angle to make sure you receive your financial aid award and you know exactly what it is that you're going to qualify for. So once you receive your financial aid award, what do you do? And this is really simple, but basically you review it right as soon as you're notified. I'm sure you'll do this. But be sure to take a look at it and then contact us if you have any questions. Maybe you see something that you thought would be there, but that's not there. Call us. We're more than happy to work that through and figure out what's going on in your situation. Or, if you just don't understand something on there, be sure to call us too. We'd love to help you out and help answer your questions at this point. And the next thing you want to do is you want to try to determine what your remaining balance is. We really want to make your remaining balance make as much sense as possible for you. And so if you need help, let us help you. You can set up a phone call to review. Once you've received your financial aid award, you'll actually get an email from the admissions office with a link to set up a phone call with your admissions counselor. And you can set up a time where we can talk through in more detail what your remaining balance means and what your financial aid situation looks like. So we can put together what we call a cost estimate, just a little bit more detailed, so you can see exactly the charges and exactly your aid as it relates to the upcoming semester. Again, this is an estimate. It's not going to reflect actual billing. That won't happen until you actually register in classes, but this will be really helpful for you to really get your mind around and understand what your remaining balance is. So we're really happy to help in this way.
So it's at this point when you know your remaining balance where a lot of people can get stuck. Maybe you thought that financial aid was going to cover everything, but you do have a little bit of remaining balance left over. You're just not sure what to do at this point. Well, in order to help you, we put together a 4-step process. It's really simple, but it's there to help you walk through the rest of the way in order to cover your remaining balance.
So here are the 4 different steps that you can take to cover your remaining balance. So we use an acronym. It's called COST, C-O-S-T. So each of the letters represents something, one step along the way in the process. The first step is C for contribution. The second step is O for outside scholarships. The third step is S for student loans. And the last step is 4 for think it through, because we want you to make a wise and informed decision, and so that's an important step along this process. So let's dive in. We'll walk through this. We want you to remember this too, so try and memorize this acronym so you know what to do at this point, so you don't get stuck here. So the first step is C, which stands for contribution. And what we're talking about here is what you're going to contribute towards the balance. You can do this in the form of one-time payments or in payment plans or some kind of combination of the two. But that's really what we'll be dealing with. In a payment plan, there's an option to do a payment plan semester by semester. You're going to set it up through inside CBU. And what they'll do, you'll work with the student accountant's office on this. And what they'll do is they'll take your remaining balance and divide it in 4. That's the standard one. You can see in the fall it's September through December, and the spring is January through April. So it's over a 4-month period. And they'll divide your remaining balance by 4, and that's what your payment plan will be. There's a small fee to enroll in each semester. Last time I've looked, it's $35, but it could vary a little bit, but it's about that much. It's a small fee to enroll every semester. And you'll just contact student accounts if you do have any questions, and here's their number too. You can reach out to them. They'll be more than happy to help walk you through the payment plan process if you have any questions about it. But what we're trying to accomplish when it comes to making this payment, and really just this whole step in general, the C contribution step, is we really want to set the target. And here's what I mean by that, is this is the portion of your remaining balance that you're going to cover with your own finances. Let's just say that you have an $8,000 balance or something. You want to figure out, well, if that $8,000 for this semester, what do we want to cover and what can we cover with our own finances? Steps 2 and 3 are going to help you cover the rest. But this really is a crucial first step, because you want to have some kind of target and goal that you're aiming for so that you know what to do and have more guidance when it comes to steps 2 and 3. And so let's take a look at what you could do to set the target. Again, there's 2 parts to this. There's the family contribution and then the student contribution. Me as the student, what can I contribute to the overall balance? So the family contribution, you want to identify how much as a family we can put towards the remaining balance. Maybe you've saved up money a little bit for a long period of time, or maybe you're just started to save up over the last couple years, or maybe you're just looking at making a monthly budget adjustment in order to help contribute to college. Whatever it is, you want to come up with some kind of number so you know a little bit about what your family can contribute to the education. And then as a student, what can I contribute to the educational costs as well? You can invest in your education now. There's actually research that shows that students that do work a campus job or just work a job while they're in school to a certain degree are actually do better in the classroom. They have a higher GPA than those that don't work at all. And so there is a little bit of an advantage too to working beyond just making a paycheck. The discipline and the structure that it can provide students can be helpful. But you can work an on-campus job or just another job. In 2019 in California, the minimum wage is $12 an hour, which is incredible. I'm not old at all, but when I started working, my first job was for $6.50 an hour, which is almost 50% of what this is. So this is pretty incredible. You can actually do pretty well, and you can make, if you're working 12 hours a week, you can make approximately $500 a month, which you can put towards your tuition costs. So that can be a huge help for you, but as a student, there's lots of opportunity for you to be able to contribute towards your educational costs now. So step 1, contribution. Here you want to set the target. So we're going to do this recap after explaining every step, and we're going to take you through an example so that you can really understand how this process works. We really want you to walk away with and feel equipped with this process. So the first one again is to set the target, and that's what can I put towards the remaining balance? Family contribution and then the student contribution. So here's our example, fall 2019 semester student. We had a remaining balance of $8,000 for the semester, and we identify that we can contribute $4,000. I'm going to work an on-campus job. I'm going to put 12 hours a week, $500 a month. I'm going to put that right towards my tuition. And my parents said, all right, we're going to match you. We're going to match that $500 a month. So we have a total of $4,000. And again, that's our target. That's our target payment plan that we're aiming for. So now we need to go to steps 2 and 3 to figure out how we can come up with the other $4,000 that's unaccounted for. So for that, let's move to step 2. Now on this step, outside scholarships, this one is really exciting. This is really exciting to talk about, and hopefully this will get you a little bit motivated to start looking for outside scholarships, because this can be such a game changer for you. If you start to really work hard in applying for outside scholarships, then this will really help reduce your cost overall to make your education a lot more affordable. So here's some helpful tips and hints. And I want to highlight the first thing is our Scholarship Station website. So you can see that at the bottom bullet. It's on Inside CBU. You go to the Financial Aid tab and you look for the Scholarship Station link. So that I really encourage you to go there. That's a list that's updated frequently of different scholarship options that are outside scholarship organizations. So there's a large list on there. Some are based on major or based on interest. So you can take a look at there. You can also use other scholarship search engines in order to look for outside scholarships. But in general, what you want to do is an outside scholarship is going to ask you for either some personal information or some you're going to have to do an essay or some other sort of submission. So a few notes on that too. Be mindful of what information that you are providing. You shouldn't have to provide your social security number, those things. So be smart when you're submitting those, and don't provide too much personal information like that to some outside scholarships. But you want to look for scholarships that are based on your hobbies or maybe a planned major, different kind of interests that you have, because you never know what scholarships are going to be offered. And so and when you look at those things, maybe you're interested in bowling, and so you start to look at, well, maybe there's some kind of bowling scholarship I could get for people that are interested in bowling or something like that. There's all kinds of scholarships that are available, and so you just look through the scholarship search engines based on some of your interests, based on your major, those kinds of things. Another thing you can do too is you can reach out to local businesses. A lot of times local businesses are really willing to do a little bit of donations to especially people in their local community. And so it's a great press for them, and it's a real benefit to you. So be confident. Ask local businesses that you're connected to, or talk to your parents' employer. They can ask them if they do any kind of scholarship options for families or for their employees or children of their employees. So that could be a really great avenue to you as well. But here's the thing is you really want to apply to several scholarships at a time. So once you start looking through the scholarships, you want to start to apply for several at a time, maybe 5 per week, something like that. That's a good goal to have. And this is really what's going to make the difference for you. It's if you really just set aside some time to start doing it and be active about applying for the scholarship. So if you write an essay for a scholarship, some of the ones that have an essay, they're going to have fewer submissions. But a lot of times that gives you a better chance of earning that scholarship. Sometimes they can be for more money. But at the same time, don't neglect the ones that are for $250, something like that. While that may not sound like much, those will start to add up. And so you can... that will really be a benefit to you. I mean, we receive hundreds of checks every year from outside organizations to help our students pay for college, and so that really is a benefit to you. And one of the key things is to not give up. Sometimes maybe a month you don't receive anything or you don't hear anything, but the key is to not give up. Keep working and applying for scholarships, because if you keep doing a good job on those, then hopefully something will really pan out for you when it comes to these outside scholarships. And again, we're back to our example. Step 2, outside scholarships. Our helpful tip is to not give up. Keep applying to 5 scholarships a week. Let that be your goal for how many outside scholarships you apply towards. So the example, fall 2019 semester, we had a remaining balance of $8,000 for the semester. We know that we can contribute $4,000. That's our target payment plan. And then I get an outside scholarship. I wrote a great essay about my mom, how I'm so grateful for her. I get $2,000 for the year, $1,000 for the semester. Helps reduce the balance a little bit more. So there's $3,000 left unaccounted for, and that'll take us to step 3. Now, step 3, which is student loans, involves all different kinds of loans. So what I'm going to do is going to go through each one of these categories and talk a little bit about what they mean and what's involved in each one. So the first one is Stafford student loans. That's at studentloans.gov. You'll go there. When you're doing the FAFSA, that's when these will be awarded. So we mentioned these a little bit earlier, but it's awarded once you complete the FAFSA at studentloans.gov. And there's 2 things you need to do in order to actually take these loans out. There's the master promissory note, and then there's entrance counseling as well. So the master promissory note is you're just agreeing, it's a signature, you agree to pay back the loan. Entrance counseling is just an educational piece. So it informs you a little bit about loans and the loan process. So they're really helpful, that's really helpful. And so you have to do those, though, in order to take out your loans. The financial aid office will email you to let you know that you need to complete those, but just know that you have to do that in order to take out the Stafford student loans. And there's 2 kinds of student loans. So like I mentioned earlier, if you're an incoming freshman, you qualify for $5,500 in loans, and that could be split up between subsidized and unsubsidized based on your financial need. So a subsidized loan means that it won't accrue interest while in college, and an unsubsidized loan means that it does accrue interest. So the standard repayment for these loans is 6 months after graduation.
and these are 10-year fixed interest rate loans. But a subsidized loan is helpful because it won't accrue interest while you're actually in college. But an unsubsidized loan, one of the things you can do is you can actually pay the interest off while you're in college. It's just a little bit each month you can go towards. It can go towards just paying off the interest, so that when you're graduating, it'll be really helpful. But you can do that. You have the option to do that. And then again, these are awarded on the completion of the FAFSA. There's also another kind of loan that's through the government, and those are Parent Plus loans. So these are going to be loans that are in the parent's name. So parents, you'll go to studentloans.gov. You'll use your FSA ID, so the parent FSA ID, in order to apply for this. You'll also complete a parent master promissory note as well. And you'll receive the decision immediately. So it is a soft credit check. It'll look at your credit history, and the amount of these loans can really vary based on what you're requesting, and then it'll look at your credit to see what you could qualify for. Repayment for these can start right away, but if you want to defer it until after graduation, parents, you can also do that. So you can also defer it to 6 months after graduation. You have the option to choose there. But those are Parent Plus loans. And then there's also some private alternative loans. These are some alternative organizations, so not the government, private lenders. And we have a list of established lenders. It's on the Inside CBU Financial Aid tab. So go there, take a look at, go to the loan section, and then you can take a look at our established lenders. And you can see what these are lenders that other CBU students have used in order to take out loans to come to college. So these really vary. They can be fixed interest rates. They can they just vary a lot. Some of them also have cosigners, so it can be in the student's name, but it also has a cosigner as well, because students, likely if you're incoming freshmen, you don't have much credit history, so you'll need a cosigner, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of different kinds. You just have to look through the different options and see what makes the most sense for you. Typically, you'll receive a decision in up to 2 weeks, something like that. It varies based on the organization, but that gives you some idea of a timeline. So if it's getting closer to the start of the semester, then it's helpful to really make sure you're doing that. So that's kind of a summary of all the student loan options that are available to you. One of the things we recommend, though, is taking out for the year rather than taking out per semester based on your needs. So kind of look at what your need is for the year and take it out for the entire year. That way you're not having to take out a loan for every semester. But hopefully that's helpful information. But this is another option. If you have questions, though, you can always contact the financial aid office, and they can help guide you through the loan process. Step 3 again is student loans, and we'll take these out for the year. Here's our helpful tip. Take the additional loans out for a year rather than just per semester. Our example fall 2019 semester student, our remaining balance was for $8,000 for the semester. We could contribute $4,000. My outside scholarship essay got me $1,000 per semester, $2,000 for the year. And then my mom was so grateful for that essay, she decided to take out a loan for me, $6,000 for the year, $3,000 for the semester. So everything is covered and accounted for. We hit our target payment plan, $4,000 now. We can take out that payment plan and start making payments on it once a month, beginning at the beginning of the semester. But there is another step, and that takes us to step 4, which is to think it through. In this last step, we want you to think through, this entire decision. So step 4, think it through. So this gives you a moment to sort of step back, look through all these different steps that you've just walked through and figure out, okay, really, is this the best decision for us? So here's some questions that you can use to guide your thinking during this time. And so I'll just walk through each of these. The first one, how much are we putting towards the balance? Is that, and then a kind of a follow-up to that is the second one. Is this amount realistic for our family? Are we comfortable for it? Do we think we can actually edge out a little bit more of our monthly budget? Or maybe you realize, I think we overshot a little bit, and maybe we need to pull back a little bit from our monthly payment plan that we're really working towards. So he just gives you a chance to really think that through. The next question, what do I think about the amount of loans that I'm taking out? Are you comfortable with the amount of loans you're taking out? Maybe you realize, okay, we need to cut back a little bit on our monthly spend, our monthly contribution to the balance, but then maybe we can just add a little bit more in loans in order to help make up the difference, give ourselves a little bit more breathing room day to day now. That's just some ways to think about it. Then the next question, do I need to commute to campus instead of live on campus? Maybe that's a helpful question, especially if you're a local student. Maybe this is an option for you. You can sort of determine if maybe that's a better option for you to help bring the cost down a little bit. Or maybe this one, should I live on campus my first year and then commute after that? That could be an option for you as well. Just so different ways to get creative. We encourage students to live on campus, but maybe if that makes it more financially viable for you, maybe that's a better option. And then lastly, what does a big picture look like for me? When you look at this over the course of 4 years, or however long you plan on being at CBU, what does it look like total when it comes to the total amount of loans, or maybe long-term doing a payment plan? What does it look like for you? So those are helpful questions to kind of guide your thinking after you've moved through all the other different steps.
And once more, we are going to run through the cost steps one final time to make sure that you really have grabbed hold of what these are. So the first one is your contribution. What's your target payment plan your family student can contribute? Outside scholarships, don't give up. Keep applying for those. See how you can help reduce your balance. Student loans is another option too. And then the fourth final step is to think it through. Did I cover my remaining balance? Is this going to make sense for us? So those are the cost steps. And hopefully this is going to be helpful for you when you get to that part where you have your remaining balance and you need to figure out what options do I have to cover the remaining balance. And finally, what's next? We have some really simple steps to walk through in order to get started at CBU. The first thing to do is to apply to CBU. If you haven't already submitted an application, be sure to submit your application. This is going to be really helpful for you, so we encourage you to go ahead and submit the application and then complete the FAFSA as well. And again, once you're accepted and you've done the FAFSA and added CBU to it, you'll receive your financial aid award. You can review that, and then if you've decided to come to CBU, you want to sign up for orientation, which is where you're enrolled in classes, receive your official bill there as well. And the fifth one is to cover your balance by the payment due date. And so these are the steps to take in order to get started at CBU. And hopefully that helps you know kind of what's coming up next. And then lastly, we want to know who do you go to for help? There's several different offices you could reach out to, and here's a short and brief description of each one. Undergraduate admissions, you've likely been working with your admissions counselor already, and we highly recommend you just contact your admissions counselor. If at any point you need help or you're not sure what to do, please contact admissions. If you have questions for enrolled students, if you're already enrolled, and you have questions about billing and payments, contact student accounts. And if you're accepted, you have questions about your FAFSA, loans, your financial aid award letter, you can just call directly to financial aid. They'd be more than happy to help you too. So here's some helpful contact information that you can reference too.
Thanks again for tuning in. I hope that this has been helpful for you and that now you feel more equipped to walk through CBU's financial aid process.